Hello. In January, Cyprus will take over the EU Council presidency for 6 months. Normally, this would not cause much noise, but this time Europe is nervous. Why? Because defense and security are now the EU's top priority, and Cyprus has a long bitter conflict with Turkey, one of NATO's most important military powers. So, the big question is simple. Can Cyprus manage Europe's defense agenda without letting its conflict with Turkey get in the way? Many diplomats are not confident. First, something important to understand. The EU presidency does not control Europe like a president controls a country, but it sets the rhythm. The presidency shares meeting of EU ministers, decide which issues move fast and which move slowly, leads negotiations with the European Parliament, helps shape compromises between EU countries. In short, the presidency cannot decide everything, but it can block, delay, or push forward key decisions. In a time of war in Europe, that power matters a lot. Before Russia-Ukraine war, defense was not central to EU politics. That changed completely. Now, Europe is rearming. Defense spending is rising. The EU created massive funding tools to buy weapons faster. Cooperation with NATO has become essential. EU even created its first ever defense commissioner. So, whoever leads the EU presidency now it's handling one of the most sensitive moments in modern European security. Cyprus is a small island with about 1.3 million people, but its political situation is unique. The island has been divided since 1974. The south is internationally recognized and Greek speaking. The north is controlled by Turkish Cypriots and protected by Turkish troops. Only Turkey recognized the northern part as a state. Because of this, Cyprus sees Turkey as an occupying force. Turkey sees Cyprus as hostile and uncooperative. This conflict affects everything, including EU defense policy. Almost all EU countries are also members of NATO. Cyprus is not because it does not want to be, but because Turkey blocks it, the situation. Cyprus says clearly, if we could join NATO tomorrow, we would, but Turkey refuses. As a result, Cyprus stay outside NATO. Cyprus blocks Turkey in EU defense and structure. Also, Turkey blocks cooperation in response. This creates a political deadlock. But why Turkey matters so much to European defense? Here's the uncomfortable truth for Europe. Turkey is extremely important. It has the second largest army in NATO after the US and the United States. Its defense industry produces NATO standard weapons. European countries want access to Turkish military production. Turkey could play a role in future missions, including in Ukraine. From a security perspective, excluding Turkey makes Europe weaker. From a political perspective, Cyprus and Greece say you cannot reward a country that occupies EU territory. That is the core tension. Also, the EU recently launched a massive defense initiative called SAFE, Security Action for Europe. It is worth 150 billion euro. This money is meant to buy weapons faster, support joint military projects, strengthen Europe's defense industry. Some non-EU countries can join, but only if all EU members agree. Turkey wants to participate. Cyprus and Greece say no. And because EU defense decisions require unanimity, that is enough to stop it. Many European governments fear that Cyprus will use its presidency to block Turkey from defense projects, slow EU-NATO cooperation, put national disputes ahead of shared security. One senior European official said openly, "We are very worried." NATO diplomats also warn that excluding Turkey could damage unity, undermine Europe's response to Russia, and weaken cooperation at the worst possible time. Cypriot officials are trying to calm the situation. They say defense and support for Ukraine will be priorities. Cyprus understands the seriousness of the moment. It does not want to derail Europe's security plans. The Cyprus president even proposed a step-by-step deal. Turkey allows Cyprus to join NATO's Partnership for Peace program. Cyprus slowly removes block on EU-Turkey defense cooperation. In theory, this sounds reasonable. In reality, trust between the two sides is very low. Because Cyprus and Greek block Turkey in EU defense agencies, Turkey blocks NATO from sharing classified intelligence with the EU. This has serious consequences: less information sharing, slower coordination, weaker joint planning, and one NATO diplomat explained it simply: when you share information, you make better decisions. Right now, we cannot do that. In Turkey, expectations are pessimistic. Former Turkish officials say EU-NATO cooperation involving Turkey will stall, defense integration will slow down, dialogue will be frozen during Cyprus presidency. From Ankara perspective, Cyprus is not a honest broker. It is political opponent with veto power. As a conclusion, this presidency is not just about Cyprus. It is a stress test for Europe. Europe must answer a difficult question. Can it separate long-standing political conflicts from urgent security needs? If it fails, defense projects may stall. EU-NATO cooperation may weaken. Internal divisions may grow. If it succeeds, Europe becomes more resilient. Cooperation improves despite disagreement. Security comes before rivalry. So the next 6 months will show whether Europe can act like a strategic power or remain trapped in old disputes while new threats rise. And that right now is the real concern. Thanks for your valuable time and goodbye.